Hi, this is Christal, and if you've seen any of my videos before, you will know that this is not a view of my studio that you usually see, unless you also happen to be one of my students who comes here for drum lessons. But even so, this particular space would not be as empty as it currently is because this is where I usually have my electronic drum kit set up. So today we will be getting new electronic drums, and I'm going to be unboxing and setting up the Roland TD516. It's been a long time since I tried a Roland drum set at length, and the last kit that I owned was the TD11, which was released in 2012. That's a long time ago. I wanted to film a setup video for you guys for a couple reasons. For one, I didn't really see the existing content that's online showing much about how you can adjust this rack to fit in a smaller space or to suit your own personal preferences in terms of configuration of parts. The space I have here is really quite limited. My table is here, my acoustic drums are here. I also want to try adjusting the position of the toms. The Roland kits are usually shown as being set up as snare, rack, rack, floor in the very traditional 5-piece kit setup, but I generally have my rack toms positioned offset to the hi-hat side. I'm pretty sure it can be done, but you know what? We'll find out together. Finally, I just wanted to show you that you can set up a drum set on your own. And this might sound a bit strange to those of you who have played for a long time and have more DIY kind of personalities, but I know a lot of people are very afraid to even adjust their own drum setup. And yeah, I just wanted to show you that you can set up drums on your own, and it's a really good thing to know how your own instrument works and is put together. One final note. If I sound a bit funny, it's because I'm currently having a bit of a flu and I'm trying really hard not to cough. So please forgive me if I break into coughing fits and there are weird cuts here and there. Kind of like that cut right there. That wasn't a planned coughing fit, but it happens. I didn't want to take another week or two before I got better and also had the time to film this to set up the drums. So I think that's enough for the intro ramble. I'm gonna go out and get some boxes in. I'm not actually gonna get all the boxes in because there's like 3 pretty big boxes and the biggest one says 43 kg. Number one, I don't have the space for all of them in here. And number two, I don't have the muscles to drag them in. So I'm gonna get the boxes that are in the boxes, if that makes sense. You know what? I'm just gonna get stuff in. So did I mention it was a lot of boxes? First up, we have snare drum, actual 14-inch snare. And comes with its little cables. Oh, that smells like factory. Look at this thing. So gorgeous. Actually looks like aluminum snare. But yeah, that's all digital. So I'm gonna put this aside. I'm gonna have so many boxes to clear after this. Then let's see, what shall we do next? This is one of the toms. Ooh. 12-inch tom. I believe this would be for the floor tom. The rims on this, really pretty. You can feel it's a bit loose. Oh, this thing is loose. Here's a little important detail. Inside the tom boxes, there's this little cubbyhole corner, and in here is a thumb screw that is taped to stuff so it doesn't fall out. And this is going to be really important. You need to screw it in over here. Oh, look at the light. I am so distracted by this. Look at the light going through the rims. This is hilarious. Okay, I would not have seen it if I positioned it this way, but that's actually really pretty. Now I need to put lights underneath this kit. That's because of this design. Looks like a wheel, but it's kind of cool. Okay, sorry. Point being, you need this little thumb screw to screw into this bit to attach to the tom mount, so don't just chuck the box after you take the tom out. I got the thumb screw out, so this just needs to be fitted right in here. Then when you mount this on the tom mount, you can tighten it with this thumb screw. Let's check out this cymbal. This is actually a 14-inch ride, but for this drum set, it's being used as the second crash because we do have the digital ride. This kit comes with a digital snare, digital ride. That's why the snare came with this USB cable. I mentioned that just now, but make sure you use that to connect your snare. Ooh. So here is the 14-inch cymbal, which comes with a... that's interesting. When you open the package, small spots appearing to be moisture might be visible on the surface of the product. This is some of the preservative that is applied to rubber components of the striking surface in order to protect its functionality. I think this is what they refer to. You see that? It's kind of, hopefully it's in focus. It's kind of sticking to the plastic, but apparently that is part of how it goes. So let's just take this out. 14-inch ride, which is going to be our second crash, or one of the crashes. I like that they actually thought to include this little read me first paper just because they knew that's going to be the first thing people are going to fixate on, and it did catch my eye. Might as well do my other cymbals. This one over here. This is a crash proper, so it does not have a bell trigger. This is the 12-inch crash, which is the other of the two crashes that are included with the TD516. It's got the same read me first notice. This looks normal. Quite a common cymbal to find on a Roland kit. Only 2 trigger zones, edge and bow. There's no bell trigger. So you can see this is a smallish bell. Okay, this big one over here is the module. I think I'll save this for later. These two are going to be the rack toms. So these would be similar to the PD12, but just smaller. Here, fighting for my life with Scotch tape. One more tom down. The next one's exactly the same, so we're just gonna skip over this one. Now we're left with all the big guys. Let's have a look at the ride first. 18-inch digital ride, which is pretty much small as far as a ride cymbal is concerned, but pretty gigantic as far as an E-kit ride cymbal is concerned. And that's another reason why I want to do the offset toms thing with this kit, so that I have more space for the ride cymbal, because it is gonna be a super tight fit in my studio otherwise. Oh, nice. Like a pizza box. Sorry, I'm just amused by really weird things. Does this come with a USB thing? No funny cables hit it? Oh, there. It does come with a USB thing. If any of your Roland components have digital something, that just means it's a USB connection, and it should have an extra cable somewhere for that. Whoa, look at that. Here is the 18-inch digital ride, and interestingly, there appear to be some stick marks on it. So, I honestly don't really care too much, but either they tested extensively or this was a showroom piece. But it's fine. Make sure you have the USB connectors with that. I will say it is pretty nice to not have to plug in multiple cables to a ride cymbal. We are gonna take a break to get some boxes out of my studio. Be right back. Okay, we're back with the final couple boxes. Let's dig in. This is the hi-hat. Oh yeah, so it's also a digital hi-hat. There is a lot of fiddly connecty bits. So we will talk about how to set this up later. Here is the bottom or top? The top hat. Okay. You can tell it's the top because it has a built-in clutch. So there you go. That's your hi-hat clutch. Some connectors at the bottom. Here we have the bottom hat. There's a little button here. I wonder what that does. I will probably need to read the manual to find out. But yeah, this is the output. This is the connector to the USB, and this is the stabilizing brace thing. I should probably have looked up the technical terms for these before doing this, but you know what? If it works, it works. Finally, we have the kick drum. A problem I had with the TD11, which is, again, not a fair comparison at all because that was a really old model, and also it was more of a lower mid-tier model, whereas this is a pretty solid mid-upper, I would say. So my problem with the smaller kick pad that was on the 11 was that it just kept wobbling and moving, and so I did want to get a kick drum. Oh, here's the little patch thing. I did want to get a kick drum that was heavier so it wouldn't move around so much. Yeah, I think it'll be heavy enough. That felt like lifting a small child, so we should be good. Here is 1/4-inch cable. I think that's it. When you first get the bass drum, the legs are gonna be kind of straight like this. And that's no use to anyone because it means your kick drum is not gonna, oh God, this is heavy. It's not gonna stand by itself. So you see the logo here? This is the front of the kick drum and your legs need to go in front. So I'm just gonna loosen this over here and estimate a good angle. I guess about here. And do the same for this leg. And now that we have the spurs out, the legs out, then we check if the kick is standing nicely. Seems to be good. If you do want a little more stability, if you hit really hard, you can rotate these rubber feet inwards to show the spurs, which is that little metal pointy bit in there. But I think I should be okay. You can also use a drum key to adjust the height of the legs without having to change the angle. But I'll save that for later once I set this thing up. Let's see, what else do we have in here? Oh, a drum key. That's nice. Oh, it's not like the other Roland drum keys with the black handle. Like, this is just all metal. I really like those black handle ones, but okay, that's just me being weird. In this little bag over here, we have a kick patch, which is going to protect this part of the mesh, as well as a little rectangle strip, which is the hoop protector, and that will go on this lip over here. I wish they made a double kick version of this because this is all well and good to protect the center, but I'm absolutely going to be hitting like towards the edges of these with a double pedal. That's it. Another reason why I got this model with this larger kick is so that there's enough kick pad real estate for double pedals. Okay, let's just get this little hoop protector on. Thankfully, there's a raised patch exactly the size of this thing. I hate sticking stuff onto other stuff when it needs to be aligned properly, but we got it. Okay, thankfully they put this sticker thing in like 2 parts, so it's a bit easier. So that was just positioning the sticker, and now to remove this. I really hope that's centralized. Presumably, if this gets worn out, you can replace this a lot easier than replacing the entire kick. We have the module over here. I will give them props for a lot of really good cardboard design. Like these little things, it's really cool. And see how this makes a pocket. Oh, it looks like a sad face. That's so cute. Makes a little pocket to hold this information book, which is really hefty. Can you see how thick this is? That's a lot of stuff. I should possibly be reading it, but I'll do that later. And this is the module. It is a giant module. I think this is probably where all the wires are. Oh, this is the mounts. Right. So this box has the little arm that you're supposed to mount the module on, as well as all the cables and stuff. And we actually have 2 power cables, UK plug, and I forget the 2 round ones. And of course, power adapter. So very important box. If you don't have all this stuff, your drum set is not going to turn on. We have finally taken all the things out of the boxes except the rack. And that is going to be the first and most painful step of the process, because the rack is all the metal tubes that you put the drums on. So I haven't owned a Roland kit in a while, but I have been to venues that use Roland drums, and I've seen so many badly set up racks. So get it right the first time, know how it should be, and then try and maintain that. Because once your rack is like slanted, it's really hard to fix again without taking everything apart. Next box clear out, and we will get started on the rack. Sounds torturous. Not gonna lie, I'm a little bit anxious about this one because I have not assembled this rack before. And here I am recording it as if I know what I'm doing. But you know, I hope that you'll enjoy being along for the ride. I did consider just setting it up and doing a review video, which I probably will, but this one is just a really, really long blow-by-blow video of what it feels like to assemble a drum set, which you've never assembled before. Oh, how lovely. There's a guide just taped to the front. And I did consider also skipping a lot of these boring parts and just cutting them out or doing a time lapse or something. But you know, nowadays there's that AI summary thing. So if you don't want to watch this, you can just summarize all of it anyway. If people are going to do that, I might as well just post the entire, I don't know how long this is going to take. What time is it now? Time now is 3:12 in the afternoon. And I think I started around 2. So it's been like an hour of just taking things out. Okay, what's this? A box with holes in. Nice handles. I appreciate that. This video is going to be so crazy long. If you're still watching, by the way, please leave a comment. I would love to know if like one person will watch this. Okay, so these are the clips and cable ties. These are, whoa, everything is taped into the box. This is hilarious. Unidentifiable mount. This is for the snare pad, which doesn't exist in this kit. So they use the same rack for different models, so there's some bits that are not actually necessary. I suspect this is one of them. I might be wrong. This is the fun thing about having an adventure together. I feel like a surgeon excising something, just in a really messy way. Okay, these are definitely the pad mounts. One box down. And then we have smaller boxes and longer boxes. Let's take out the smaller boxes first. That's all that's in this box. Okay. Goodbye, box. This is like Lego for adults. Seriously. Love it. Okay, this is one curved bar. There are these little holes, which are the guide holes for aligning other stuff. First set of 2 bars. One is totally smooth, and one has a cymbal or something attachment, as well as one of these memory lock type things. All of these little mount things on the poles are the same. So I think it's the same whether it's for a tom or for a cymbal, which means your tom and cymbal positions are technically interchangeable. So these are the little things that I wish were more obvious in the information so that we can tell how modular all these kits are gonna end up. This is the right arm, which has 3 of these, sorry. And this one will be the top piece. Left, center top, center bottom, and right. So now I have a rough idea of what's going on. So my thought is I am wanting to put one of my toms on this left arm over here. As you can see, once you attach these poles into the rack structure, you're not going to be able to move all these little adjustment things without taking everything apart again. So I am just going to try this right now. So this is the left side one. I don't know why there's a memory lock here. So this is right under that guide hole. And then we're going to put this here. So I'm just gonna dump this tom mount over here, and memory lock goes back in. Put this the right way. And if all goes well, I will be able to put one of the rack toms here next to the hi-hat. Next, oh, this one's kind of hefty. Let's see what this is. Cymbal stand. That's why they're heavy. Here we have a cymbal pole. I hesitate to call it a stand. We have 2 long cymbal stands and 1 short one. So these 2 are gonna go into the left and right vertical bars, and that's why they're a bit longer. And then that short one is gonna be mounted on the rack on the right side. We are down to the last box in a box. Okay, so here is one of the vertical supports. You can tell because there is this rubber foot, and that will go somewhere. There's one with this short tubular looking piece. This is the snare pad mount that's not used in this particular drum set. So now we've got all the legs out. This one with 4 pieces attached to it is going to be the left side main leg thing. And then the one with 3 attachments is going to be the right side. So we will have the center supports here and here. These are the 2 legs that are going to be at the front or nearer to the player side. And there's a shorter one and a longer one. So longer one goes on the left, shorter one goes on the right. After consulting the manual, I was indeed correct that this is a completely unnecessary piece because this is going to be the snare mount, which I don't actually need. This is supposed to be the one that goes to this side. This is middle. You can tell the difference because of where the screws are. And we can actually take this guy out. But in order to take this out, irritatingly, I have to remove all of these things. So that's my work set out for me right now. I love little sound that it makes when you take stuff off this, like little pop sound. Okay, I'll stop. I feel like I should make markings on this so it'd be easier to... You know what? That's not a bad idea. Just my pencil. Okay. This. And a little mark here. And then get rid of this. Don't know if I want to use this on anything. And now we put them back. So this just goes to where my little pencil mark is. We're good. First up, loosen this. And we want to put in our middle segment. This is the little hole that's going right in between this piece. Just loosen this and then you can put it in. That's your top beam done. And then we can do the bottom beam. Bottom middle piece is the one without anything in it. I'm sorry about the horrible view. I'm just like, there's not enough space for me to move things around at this point. And then we want to do the same for this side. Just gonna loosen both of these first. And now to get these 2 in, it's gonna be a bit tricky. But yeah, turning it this way to install these 2 makes a lot more sense because yeah, it's just easier to do it this way. And now I just need to yank them down until the little holes align. So I feel like a lot of racks get set up poorly because of this step. Like if you don't align these things properly, and it is a little bit of a struggle to get them in. I don't know if you can see me sweating right now, but I am sweating a bit. And if you don't get it right at this phase, like these 2 ends are not going to be level, and then your whole drum set is just going to be a little bit off kilter. So this piece over here needs to be rotated out to this side. This is where the left beam is going to be, and this piece down here needs to be rotated out to this side. Over on the right, which is where the floor tom attachment and leg is going to go. This is the hi-hat piece, and this is the leg for that. That's the wrong way. This way. Okay, this is where they suggest attaching the module. And I honestly don't know if I have enough space in my room for that because like my table is right there. I feel like I should shift the camera to like in front, maybe. I'm not sure if this is much of an improvement and I'll probably shift back to the previous angle later, but let us continue. So this one is the right side arm and it's got a lot of spare connections on it for if you want to probably expand the kit. In general, I found that it works best if you put the part with the bracket on the floor. If you're like me and you don't have a lot of arm muscles, it's definitely easier to use a bit of your body weight to do that. Now we just need to put these on the rack and hope and pray that the entire thing actually can stand upright. Looks okay so far, I think. Let's see if it stays up straight. Yay! Oops. Okay. I think this turned out pretty well, even though you can't see most of it from there. So here is a problem. You can see this leg over here can actually rotate because I didn't tighten it properly over here. So I need to make sure this is aligned to that guide. Part of the reason why this wasn't straight just now was this pole wasn't all the way seated into the attachment over here. So just now I just kind of braced it against my shoulder and yanked it in, and there's a little popping sound as it attached properly. And now that I tighten this, I think this is a lot more stable. Whole thing is solidly flat on the floor. So right now what I'm looking at is all the little guide holes. Let me show you. Over here, there is this little hole that's not really aligned. That should be up. Okay, we're kind of fixed. So things to check is that little guide hole, which you can very vaguely see. And there's this little slot at the side of each of the joints. So that slot, you should be able to see the pipe come in here, because if there's a gap, that means your pipe isn't all the way in. So two things to check for every joint, that the guide holes is centered and the pipe is all the way to the end. So I just went through and checked that with all the connections. All of them have that little slot. You should be able to see the pipe there, and then, ooh, this is really dark, but yeah, the guide hole's right there. I have decided to switch to action cam for a wider angle because there's just no way that I can keep anything in frame otherwise. And so I'm pretty happy with how stable this rack is. One of the downsides of these racks is if you're not, where's my drum key? Shucks. I knew this was gonna happen, and yet, please don't tell me I put it in the box. I kind of put it, oh. You know what? The drum key was in the rack. As I was saying, the problem with these racks is if you're not careful, you can kind of kick these side poles out of alignment. These two are the easiest to get out of alignment. So just make sure that they're straight and then tighten it and try not to kick it by accident. I'm going to remember the drum key is here. Next step, let's get the tom arms in. So here's the bit where I don't know if I need to take this out and spin this around, because if I mounted this, actually, wait, I can just spin it around this way. If I do this, if I do this, oh, that's perfect. So I kind of figured out how to affix these two at the same height. And that is needing to spin this connector around so that the hole is on the bottom for this one, and to spin it around so the hole is on the top for this one. So you can see the thumb screw is in front here and the thumb screw is like here. So this entire piece can be rotated. For the floor tom pad, I'm assuming that it's going to need to be a bit higher. So I'm just flipping it up this way. When it comes like out of the box, it's actually at this angle. So you can like rotate it whichever way you want, depending on whether you need your pads higher or lower. This is one of the cymbal stands. There's a ball joint, and if I'm not wrong, this is a boom arm. Yeah, so you can put your cymbals at an angle if you want. I'm just gonna leave it straight for now. This one goes into this pole over here. And this is gonna be the ride. One of these is gonna be, oh yeah, so there's only one spare of these things. One of these is the floor tom and one of these is the crash. Just gonna put this in here and we'll sort that out properly in a moment. I feel like these are gonna be way too high for me. That's a hilarious angle. So downside of flipping the stand around here is this becomes kind of hard to adjust. So probably need to take the drum off, then tighten it, and then put the drum back on. So I might bring this entire beam down just a bit and like bring these down because I am not very tall. We're just gonna take this and this and bring it down by a little bit. Tighten that back. Word to the wise, if you are kind of short, you might want to set up your rack with lower heights from the beginning. And I could have anticipated this, but that'll save you a little bit of trouble just readjusting the rack heights. But it's not too difficult because like it's quite easy to just slide down. So if you prefer to have your drums set up a little lower and flatter, you can do that. You just need to adjust where your rack pieces are sitting. Drum key is going to go here. You'll probably get a better idea of how this is supposed to be once I put in the kick and snare. I generally have my bass drum just under this rack tom. So the only problem is this is a bit too near now. Like I would prefer it a bit further away, but I'm going to run out of space on this end. So just going to try scoot that back a little bit. I have just realized that I actually have a spare attachment here because this is for, like this thing on the pole is for the mounted hi-hat. I don't actually need it over here because the hi-hat this kit comes with is the actual hi-hat stand. Hi-hat. I could have taken that out. Never mind. I'm gonna put my pedals on first just so I can kind of get a better idea of how this is gonna look. And so far, looks fine. So I do need to adjust my kick legs to make sure that the beaters are hitting the surface of the kick a little better. So I'm just gonna make this a bit longer. And now we just need to see if the hi-hat pedal is gonna play nice with the kick over here. I have the DW3000 hi-hat stand. Just gonna go right in front of this thing, apparently. That's not gonna work very well because I need my module here and I need my hi-hat here. So we have a little bit of a problem. First, don't need this clutch. It's a spare clutch now. Put my hi-hat a little bit higher, maybe it'll work. Let me get the module arm. It's gonna be so close. That's not gonna work. Unless this extra thing, which means I am seeing possibilities, but I don't know if they'll work. We are gonna need a little bit more thinking there. Time to try and make sure my drum position works before I even proceed. That's roughly where it should be. Now it's just way too close to the floor tom. So I am going to open up this end of the rack a little bit and I will have to shift my kick. Okay, we're getting somewhere, but I still don't like this. I can probably still manage with this a little bit lower. So now my main problem is that I have nowhere to put the module. So I'm gonna pause this, figure out a solution, and get right back to you. We are down to placing the module. And this is really cool because it is the V5 module. And there's so much stuff on this, guys. But anyways, how this attaches is you have to unscrew these things. And then there's this little base plate that goes here. It's actually the same as the SPD mount, I believe, that works the same way. And so how they advise you to do it is there's this little, I am so moved by this drum set that I'm tearing. That's actually just because I spend like 3 minutes coughing. And this is the first time I've cried on my channel. I'm not actually... How they recommend you to set this up is using this little piece, and then this attaches to the end here. You stick this to this left side of your kit and put this here, and the module is like over here. And that works for the normal layout because if you don't have offset toms like me and you put the toms in the middle, then your hi-hat is going to be on the inner part of the rack and then you have the space for the module here, but I also have a table in the way. The way they recommend you to attach it is going to be sticking out this way on a stand, but you can actually rotate this piece, which means it is possible to mount upright this way. And what I'm thinking is I want the module to be right up there, like here, over my rack tom. So it's going to be like this. Now, slight problem is this little piece they give you is pretty short. However, sorry, this is the little piece they give you that's pretty short. However, there is this one, which is the unused snare mounting pipe, I guess, which is a little bit longer. And unfortunately, that means I need to take my rack apart again. And I will need to use this spare attachment thing. This was from the snare mount that is not being used for this. So I'm gonna need to take out this piece and slot this in so that I can mount this pipe vertically and try and get the module up over there on top of the rack tom. I'm not gonna record this because it's gonna be a pain to take that stuff off again, but I'll get this done. Okay gang, we have some good updates. It works, and the module can be mounted up here with this snare pole instead. So basically I just took that connector, put it on this, have that going up, rotated the screw mount thingy, and it fits just nicely above this rack tom, thankfully. I've gone ahead to put in the 12-inch cymbal here. Usually for most people, you would want to put maybe the 14 here, but the reason I'm doing this is literally because I'm doing this offset tom setup, and also because my wall or my sound treatment panels are very close to this pad and there's not a lot of clearance. So it works perfectly for me to have this smaller crash here, and I'll put the 14-inch crash on this side. But I wanted to show you as well what I've gone ahead to set up for the ride cymbal. This cymbal stand is meant to be inside here, and that means the top part is going to be starting from here, and this entire thing starts from here, which means the ride cymbal is actually pretty high up. So if you estimate from here, your ride cymbal is going to be mounted here, which is great if you like a high angled ride. So it would be around here. But I prefer my ride to be a little bit lower. And also in my specific use case, I teach on this drum set and my students over there. And if I'm looking at the screen in front of my student's drum set, I need to look in this direction. So I don't want a super high ride blocking me right here. So I actually went ahead and used the spare mount that was on the right side pole. I shifted things down by one. So this is what I was talking about. This is the connecting piece that the floor tom was originally in, and I took that out and I put the cymbal pole here instead. And on this side, you can see I just shift it down to put the floor tom on this one, and then I'm using this previously spare one to put the second crash mount. Going on to the digital ride, if you look here, there is this valley-shaped groove in the middle. I'll put that in the light. This valley-shaped groove over here. That is where your cymbal mount, which is this thing, needs to be aligned properly. So that needs to sit nicely on this over here. That will give you enough clearance for the cymbal to swing without rotating, because that side doesn't have so many trigger sensors, or just doesn't trigger properly. All right, we have the ride in place as well as the second crash. The only slight adjustment I made off camera was to put this on the boom arm, which is basically just a diagonal piece. And let me just show you on this one. So if I loosen this, there is this silver bit, and then you can put it at an angle this way, tighten it back, and then you just need to rotate this accordingly to adjust the cymbal on the ball joint. So I did that for the ride cymbal because otherwise the center of the ride would be over here, which is a bit too far to the right from where I wanted it. I wanted it a little bit closer to this tom. And I also wanted to show you this thing. This is the USB connection for all the digital elements. One thing to note, these little black felts are extremely fuzzy. Like they disintegrate and leave fuzz on stuff. Don't put them on your mesh heads if you want them to stay clean. So I actually put this on this floor tom head and now there's just black flecks everywhere. Here is the little USB clamping mechanism. This will just need to go in here. And then this holds it in place. There we go. The last thing to set up is going to be the hi-hat. If you ever played one of these floating hi-hats before, you'll know that one of the problems of their old models of hi-hat is that the thing will keep spinning around and then it would just disconnect itself at some point, which was a pain. For this model, they introduced this little funny looking gizmo. I wish I had more light so that you can see it better. Okay. This funny looking gizmo is gonna try and hold the bottom hi-hat in place so it doesn't rotate. So underneath the hi-hat, there is this metal thing with 2 attachment bits. That's where the little alien arms are gonna fit in. And that's gonna keep the hi-hat in place, apparently. So that package, that alien bobblehead thing comes in, also comes with 3 of these little plastic I don't know what to call these things, but inside they say like small, medium, large. So what you need to do is figure out what's the size of the pole of the hi-hat you're using. So for mine, small seems to be a good fit. Get my drum key, open this thing up, put the small plastic piece in there, and put that around this pole, and then screw the screw back in. I'm not gonna put it super tight yet, but I'm just gonna fit these little things into the metal part. I'm not sure if you can see that underneath here. I fit the 2 black pieces in here, and then I need to pull down on this till it's taut and then tighten it properly. Ideally, what that does is it just holds your bottom hi-hat in place. Can wiggle a bit, but it's not gonna rotate. So just flung my drum key onto the floor. Sweaty palms, guys. Then going up here, we have 2 little 1/4-inch cables which need to be plugged into this side and this side of the hi-hat, and then fold those to the side. So this one's going forward, this one's going backwards. And that should be our hi-hat settled. So far, so good. We also need to connect the USB cable to this connector over here. Just gonna put that in. Let's plug it in and then use this little bracket thing to make sure it doesn't fall out. As you can see, I adjusted the height of this stand just so that I would have just enough clearance for the top of the module, as well as, oddly enough, my printer at the side. And you know what? We've made it work in this little space. Gonna get the drum throne and see if it feels okay, and then we can plug it in and get some sound. Okay, this is what we're looking at from my point of view for now. I shifted this crash up for a really weird reason, and that's because when I'm teaching, I want to be able to see my students' feet if necessary. It's a very strange reason, but it's true. All that's left is to plug things into this. So from here, you can see these are the USB inputs. So this is where the digital hi-hat, ride, and snare need to be plugged into. And then your second crash needs to be plugged in here. If you have a Tom 4, this is where it goes. These are the master outputs. This is where you can add mix in for additional sound if you want to. The headphones out is actually down here, which is a little bit of an issue, but I will probably be just using the master out. Of course, you could just shift this to the right a little bit if you want to use the phones out. But thankfully, the majority of things will be plugged into this giant snake cable thing at the back. Just in case any of you have never set up a drum brain or drum module before, let me just show you what the connections are like. This is the snake cable I was talking about. So here you go. It's kind of like the some of the connectors to computers. So if you're using one of these, you just need to unscrew these little screws at the side so that these things retract. And and then you plug it in, and then you screw these two back in. So that is gonna go right at the back of the module. And then attached to this, we have a whole bunch of 1/4" instrument cables. Each of these are labeled with what instrument. So you pretty much just need to follow as labeled. And the tricky thing is getting this entire snake of cables to run nicely along the rack. That's what these little things are gonna help with, which is a whole bunch of cable organizers. These are the kind that clip to the poles, and then there's some Velcro ones as well. That's what I'm gonna do. And time check, it's now 5:45. I don't remember when I started, but basically you probably need an afternoon to set this thing up. So guys, it's been a long afternoon and I completely forgot to hook up the Crash 2 cable. So, you know, there was that 1/4" cable that was with the kick drum. Yeah, that's the Crash 2 cable. So if you're wondering why there's a spare instrument cable, that's where it's from. Here's a look at the cabling situation. Sorry if it's a bit dark, but basically everything is getting clipped here. The hi-hat USB cable, that's the USB connection. It's hidden behind this. Everything is running back there into the darkness. And Crash 2 and Tom 3 cables run along here so that from a distance, you don't see messy wires anywhere, which is great. The good news is my cables are just long enough to plug in here from my interface. So this module positioning is perfect for me, and power cable goes there. The power on switch is over here, and we're live, guys. Not bad. I could definitely play around with that a lot more, and I literally have not touched anything in the module besides changing the kits, but it sounds and feels pretty good so far. I'm looking forward to exploring this and sharing with you my thoughts on it after I've spent some time really getting to know this kit. So look out for a full review, but today's video was more bit of a day in the life of, I guess. I still don't know how I'm gonna edit this because there's a lot of footage recorded in one afternoon, but I think I'm pretty happy with how this setup turned out. And so now you know, if you want to achieve this kind of offset tom situation, basically, number one, you need to shift one of your tom mounts over to the left side curved bar that connects this side. And if you want to put your module in this position, which I find so much more ergonomic than having it off to the side and down low on the left, you can also do that when you get the TD516 because it comes with an extra snare mount, and you can use that to mount the module up here. Other tweaks I made was to have the ride in a lower position, shift the stand off from being in that pole to being at the side. And I think that's about all the main adjustments I made to this kit in order to have it to fit within this space. If you have at least 160 cm of space, which is about 62 inches, you can get this drum set and it will fit into that space. You can actually bring in this crash, rightmost crash a little more, but I think it's comfortable where it is. And yeah, I hope that helps someone if you're trying to fit this into a small space, or if you're just trying to convince yourself that you can actually set up an e-drum kit by yourself. If you stayed all the way to the end, you are, I was gonna say ridiculous, but you're amazing and a little bit ridiculous too. I don't know why you did that, but kudos to you. Thank you for watching, and well, stay tuned for the next installment of my adventures with this drum set. Bye. Okay, time to clean up.